In today's video, I'm going to show you a cyber attack that can happen in your network, even if you've applied every patch to your operating system from Windows. Then, I'm going to show you a way that you can stop that attack from happening in your own network. Hi, I'm William, and welcome to the SMB Secure YouTube channel, where we're focused on practical information security tips and strategies for small and mid-sized companies to help you improve your security defenses and reduce the risk of breaches. The attack we're going to talk about today is SMB Relay Attacks. Then we're going to look at why you need SMB Signing turned on to prevent this kind of attack. We use this attack constantly in penetration tests. When we're hired to break into a company's computer system, when we are doing what's called an internal assessment, where we are on their network, we constantly find organizations that are vulnerable to SMB relay attacks. We also commonly find this vulnerability when we're doing a vulnerability assessment that SMB signing is not enabled. The SMB protocol was invented way back in the 1980s. And as you know, everything in cybersecurity has progressed at a very rapid pace. So if you're using technology developed back in the 80s, there's very likely some vulnerability that you need to be aware of. And yes, SMB has been revised and modified over the years, but overall it's riddled with weaknesses that you really have to be aware of if you're going to use it in your organization and you want to harden against those attacks. So let's look at how SMB relay attacks work. So I have two computers here. I have a Windows computer, which, as you can see, if I do a who am I am the local administrator. And I also have a Kali computer. And what I'm going to do is on the Kali computer, I'm going to start a tool called Responder. And what Responder is going to do is, as users in this network, in this lab, we're only targeting one computer. But if I was on a penetration test, I would be targeting maybe a whole subnet of computers. I would run this attack in the morning as users are booting up and getting logged in. But it's the basics of what's going to happen here is Responder is going to look out for certain types of requests. This can be DNS request, it could be HTTP request, it could be SMB requests. And in this case, I've turned off all of the other types of attacks, the intercept and relay attacks, and I'm only running the SMB attack. So we're going to run Responder with sudo privileges on my Ethernet interface. And now Responder is listening for events, and when it sees an SMB request or a broadcast looking for an address on the network, it's going to reply back and say, hey, I'm that device. So we can see poison answers being sent for various locations to various machines. Now I'm going to come over to my other device in this network. We're going to go to File Explorer. And I want to make sure I'm going to get a password hash, because that's what the Intercept attack is doing. When a host goes to a system, they put in the address, the attacker will say, I'm that address, give me your password. So I'm going to go to a file share that I know doesn't exist so that I know Responder has a chance to reply. I'm going to go to File Server. And I'm going to try to go there, go back to Kali, and look what happened. Kali sent a poison answer to my computer saying, hey, I'm file server, give me your password. And look what it did. It gave us the password. See? We have the hash now. We have the NTLM v2 hash of that. And at this point, I have a local administrator hash of a user that I can now use and begin relaying that. Now in this example, this hash was not a domain hash, it's just a local user hash, but the concept is still the same. I can take that hash and use something like Metasploit. I can begin passing that around the network and using that local user to gain access to other systems. So as you saw, it is very easy for an attacker to go from no access in your network to an administrator with that simple SMB relay attack. But you can prevent this type of attack by simply implementing SMB signing. What is SMB signing? SMB signing places a digital signature into every block or packet of SMB traffic. It does that to authenticate or verify that the sender is who they say they are. And it sends that to the servers to prevent what's called a man-in-the-middle attacks. And it guarantees that SMB communications are not altered in transit. You remember the difference in TCP and UDP, right? TCP protocol streams. Every packet that is sent, it gets a verification back. UDP doesn't do that. Well, with SMB on the TCP, we can do that signing that we just talked about so that every packet is signed so it can the receiver, the server, and the client can verify that the sender is who they say they are. So in that SMB relay attack we just talked about, when the attacker sends that fake broadcast out and says, I am whatever file share or SMB share you're looking for, they might get a hash, but when they take that hash to use it at the file server, the server is going to verify that the client wanting to connect is who they say they are. And that is done with that digital signature that we talked about with SMB signing. And the server is going to look at the signature and say, hey, you are not user, you don't get access to the files in this share. As you go about implementing SMB signing or enabling it in your network, there's something to keep in mind. SMB signing can be set to enabled or enforce. Okay? When SMB signing is enabled, it's possible for clients that support SMB signing to connect, and it's also possible for clients that do not support SMB signing to connect. This also means a host could choose or request not to use SMB signing. However, when SMB signing is required, both computers and that SMB connection must support SMB signing. The SMB connection is not successful if one computer does not support SMB signing. But what happens when SMB relay is attempted when SMB signing is implemented? Like we mentioned a few minutes ago, when that server hosting that file share or that SMB share gets that fake connection request trying to act like another user, it looks at that digital signature and it knows you are not who you say you are, you don't have access. And you can tie this into other security components of your network, and you could recognize this as an SMB relay attack. You could isolate that host until it can be investigated. There's lots of ways you can respond to that kind of an incident. SMB signing can be deployed via GPO if you are in an Active Directory environment, or you can manually change the registry keys that enforce the SMB signing. This can be done with registry keys or in the local security policy. So SMB signing, or the lack thereof, is a common vulnerability that we find in networks. We regularly use it to gain access to systems in Active Directory environments, in Windows environments. It is a common way for an attacker to escalate privileges, to move laterally through a network, because a lot of times devices have the same local administrator account. IT sets that up for ease of access. And we regularly find this as a simple way to get into systems. So if you want to harden your organization, go and implement SMB signing in your organization, and you can prevent SMB relay attacks and attackers from using those SMB hashes they are able to collect.